Barcelona and in Berlin, but I am having my design studio in Barcelona. It's a small design studio. Actually, if I have to describe myself, I am a generalist designer, but let's say that 15% of my work is based on food design. I was starting it mostly 20 years ago, so exactly 19 years ago. And the presentation I will do, it's only about food design, about my projects of food design from the beginning till the last one, which is the one we are presenting here. It's called Flashpoint Pie. This is a diagram I did in 2007, and it's based on a diagram who did Alfred Barr Jr. for the MoMA, which I take away the topics and I put my topics on it. Basically, it starts with the first exhibit I did in '97, it ends in 2007. The relevant things are that 2007 I have this design 2.0, which is a design in which the final result, it's not a product, but it's a tool to do a product. And then in the other side, I have X-Designer. X-Designer, it's a definition I invented to define, to work with design, but behind the borders of the discipline. And curiously, in the middle, where Alfred Barr Jr. had modern architecture, I have food design, which is something that in '97 was completely unknown and completely surprising, and then 10 years later started to be a discipline. I started to do food design because I was very interested in mass production, and I realized that food is mass produced, but nobody sees food as an object, so I was trying to look at it as an object and then to design this object. The first object I designed was this, it's called Spamt, and it's based on a snack that we have in Barcelona, which is a piece of bread with a squeezed tomato with oil and salt. And in the 90s, we were starting to have a new lifestyle trend, which was with the internet, with the starting of the internet, we were starting to eat in front of the computer. And then I realized that traditional bread with squeezed tomato was not fitting this new attitude because we were doing a lot of dirt in the keyboard. So I was thinking, just let's think on this traditional food to make it functional, more functional and ergonomic. Let's design it. And it was coming Spamt, in which there's a tomato and the bread, it's inside, and the oil and the salt. In that way, you can eat when you are in front of the computer while you are surfing in the internet. Well, it's called Spamt because it's the phonetic for Spamptomacat, the word for, and also the cross-reference with Spam from the Hormel Food Corporation, and also in internet, the Spam. So you have here, for example, two Spam with different Techno Tapas, which is kind of salads designed in a way that you can eat in a very extreme conditions from the contemporary life, for example, underwater. That's another project. It's called Tapas Pasta, and it's a way to cook the pasta so that you can eat with your fingers. So you put an spaghetti inside a penne rigate, and then you put on the top of the pan with water. When it's with heat, you can bend it. Then you put inside the water, and when it's al dente, then you take it away, and in that way you can eat the pasta with your finger and try different sauces, or you can share a dish of pasta with different friends, which is not possible with a standard dish of pasta. 10 years ago, I designed this apple. It's a hole, but it doesn't go through. So it was a kind of apple that I did cavity to turn it into a glass to drink apple schnapps. And then 10 years later, a producer of apple schnapps from Germany asked me to design the tool. I was doing the apple schnapps, the apple, because one of the things that fascinated me from food is that it disappears. It disappears by ingesting it, and it's transformed into energy. And in that way, I was thinking it was nice to have an apple that it's a glass, and then you drink the apple schnapps, and then you eat the glass. Another topic is these exhibits. It happens that at the beginning, when I was exhibiting the food, it becomes very popular, very trendy in the newspapers and everything, but it didn't went to the industry. It became a kind of things to be exhibited. And this is, for example, quite a different one, because it's the idea to use an art center, which they have special conditions to do a production of meth, of this honey wine. And I designed this table in which you can do a production of 50 bottles of this alcohol beverage. And we did it without having license, because when you are in an art center, it's like you are in a port. You are free from the rules. Performance, it's kind of another topic on my work. It happens that when I did my first exhibit in the H2O gallery with the Spamt, with a tomato, I wanted to exhibit pictures of the food, because it's difficult to exhibit real food. And the gallerist told me that in a design exhibit, if you don't exhibit the object, nobody will come. I cannot exhibit pictures of if I am a designer. So, and I had the problem because I didn't cook. I don't like cooking. So I was thinking I will invite some friends, and they will help me to prepare the food. So we were starting to do it before the opening of the exhibit, but again, the gallerist said, stop, you do the same, but once the people is here. So we did about 500 of the tomatoes. We had a lot of media coverage. We were in all the televisions, in all the daily newspapers, but only with bad critics. So the same year, 3 months later, we did again another Spam factory, and at that time we already designed it a little more. I designed it more, like we had this illuminated table, and we were standing, and it was everything much more well done. That's another kind of performance. It's a commission from CASCO projects in Utrecht to redesign an opening of a gallery. And because in an opening, it's good to drink something alcoholic, because then you feel more free to speak. And it's very bad always you have a glass on the hand, because it doesn't feel you shaking hands and something. I did this gut fog, which is for gin and tonic fog. And it's a machine used for agriculture that with ultrasounds break the molecules of any liquid and puts it in the air in the shape of fog. And in that case, it was the gin tonic on the air. Interaction, it's another relevant topic of my work. So that's, for example, the 7-step cookie. It's a kind of similar to the Flashpoint pies, which is exhibited here. It's a cookie in which the decoration is the way you have to beat it or you have to eat it. In that way, decoration becomes information. That's another element. It's called Oranienbaum lollipop, and it's a lollipop with a seed of orange inside, which is promoting sporadic reforestation. That's how it works. you eat it, and then when you finish, you have the seed inside, you split it, and then 5 years later, come an orange tree. Another relevant topic is new typology. So I am not really designing the shapes of the objects, but I am designing objects which are for new functions or new typologies. And this is one which is produced by Alessi. It's called Seed Safe. I am in a way very fascinated from seeds, because seeds are containing information of the whole species. But if you eat an apple at home, you just threw away all this information in the garbage. So I was thinking, in a contemporary life, it's better to collect seeds than to collect money. This is another new typology object. It's a label of a wine that here you can take a piece, and then next day you can remember the wine you were taking. This stamp I designed for a company in Italy doing vinegar of Modena. The vinegar of Modena is very thick, and in that way we could do a graphic stamp on food with this vinegar. Or the eye cakes, which is they are conventional pies inside, but outside they are graphic pies with information on % of the ingredients. Again, is this idea of decoration that becomes information. Instruction, it's another topic. Because the objects are from new typology, they are not intuitive. You need to explain how to use, what to do with that. So it's a kind of, I need to do this instruction usually. That's, for example, the instruction on how to eat the Spamt. That's so that you see it and you take it. It's important you do in one bite. Or that's another instruction, which was the invitation card for an exhibit in Berlin. The food, instead of being in the middle, the food is around people on the walls. So here you see two German people eating the walls. The walls were done with bread, which was silk print with squid ink and with the images of the Techno Tapas. And then they were sticked on the walls with points of Nutella. What happened is that I started to design the food, and a new typology was not really, we were not used to this kind of food, so I need to design the ritual around that. And then I contextualize in a space, and I realized that after that I had a kind of collection of business models, or I call it business models. This is the first one. What you see at the left is a microscopic picture of dust, of normal dust in the air. And to the right it's the same, but it's a nutritive dust, kind of nutritive muesli or micro muesli I designed it. What I do is I put this muesli on the air. You cannot see it. You can breathe it. The problem if you breathe it is that it goes to your lungs. So what I introduce in the muesli saliva activator. In that way, it activates your saliva and sticks to your saliva, and in that way goes to your stomach. And that was called Pharma food, and that's the Pharma bar in which you go inside, you breathe, and it's you get the nutrients like if you go to a restaurant and you eat. That's a kind of different business model. That was a commission from Mediamatic in Amsterdam to combine new media with food. And I did this platform. It's called Food Facility. At that time, Google was very popular, and we know that Google organizes information but doesn't provide the content. So what we did is the restaurant that you have a menu with 12 different specialties, for example, Mexican, Indian, Dutch, Spanish, Chinese. The people order what you want. The waiter calls the different takeaway restaurants, and then scooter boys deliver the food inside the restaurant. So here you see the scooter boys delivering the food to the food DJ, which was delivering the food to the tables. That's another kind of business model. It's about a restaurant who has a solar kitchens as a kitchen. It was done with Anto Melasniemi, the Finnish chef. We just painted a white square on the floor and just put the kitchens there, and people were enjoying. And it was open only the sunny days, of course. And here you can see with Helsinki on the background, the restaurant in fully action. Okay, and now I will show you some recent projects. Well, it's a project from 2007, but it was redone in 2015. These are candles, phosphor candles to celebrate birthdays in airplanes. And when I designed it, I thought it would be stupid, but it happens that last year, finally, I had an airplane when I was my birthday. So I was thinking, I did a phosphor candle to celebrate birthdays in airplanes. So I did my 51 birthday in a trip from Hong Kong to Barcelona, and I tried it, and it worked very well. Also, a recent project is this for the NGV, the National Gallery of Victoria in Australia. It's an exhibition for children. It's called Faith Food Park, in which children are, let's say, playing with food and thinking about food, but not cooking, which is something supposed to be very revolutionary. And now I will explain you the project I did for Taipei, which is called Flashpoint Pie. It's based on the wheel pie, and it's inspired in algorithms. There are deterministic and non-deterministic algorithms, and algorithms are kind of protocols or sequence. Usually if you eat food, you just go intuitive in the way you eat it, but in that case, you have to follow a sequence, which is as a symbol of bits, and in that case, you have these 6 bits, which are equivalent to the 6th region of Taiwan, and when you beat it in that way, you just do a trip through the Taiwan country. To finish, this is again another project that I am doing in Barcelona. It's called the Ex-Designer Bar, and it's a bar which we started last year, and we print everything in 3D. So we have 3D printers, and we started to print slowly the whole bar and the glasses and the tools. It takes a long time. And next year it will be 20 years. I did this first exhibit with a Spamt, with a tomato, and I am now doing this project which is supposed to be very difficult. It's not easy to print a Spam in a 3D printer. So I am trying it, and it's expected to happen next year on February. Well, yeah, it's true that it's 20 years ago, and but still it's unbelievable that I can show you something from 20 years ago, and still it has a kind of impact. It means the products, they are getting better with the time. Yeah, it's a kind of, I am happy, for example, to see that a lot of 3D printing machines are based on printing graphics on food, but I did it already 20 years ago with a Calvin Klein omelettes. We were using another techniques, but it's mostly the same. So it means that as I am working with the concepts are in a way timeless, and what happens is just changing the technologies. And I feel that's a big feedback, and encouraged me to work with the concepts, and in that way that technology follow the concepts. I think it will happen with these new 3D printing technologies, because in that way food design, it's still design because it's using industrial technology, but it's not mass production. That means that it can have the quality of an industrial product and the quality of a craftsmanship product at the same time. And I think that's the field in which food design has to be evolved in the real. So, and first I want to remark that I really, what I do is I design edible objects. So it's not so much food, but so the role is to be a designer in a way. So it doesn't matter if it's edible or not edible. But of course, edible had more impact and it's more complex as a project because there are a lot of incidences in your body, in your environment, etc. Yes, I believe that objects can communicate a lot. A Japanese copywriter in my studio for 5 years ago, who was coming because he believed that printed communication it's not anymore interesting, and objects had the value to communicate. So it's true that you can communicate a lot through designed objects, and I do it a lot with the projects which are cross-media, and I think it's one of the new things that design can do. Because SPD is the school I was doing in the 80s in Milano, and they recovered me, and I am now doing a kind of teaching for short periods in the Master of Food Design, in which there are a lot of Taiwanese people. I was having a list of most relevant foods in Taiwan, like street food, because it's about the evolution of street food. And well, the first thing that it comes to my mind is that, okay, probably there is a tradition around street food. So the tradition makes that everything is done because it was done before, but nobody knows why it was done like that way. So I was trying to introduce kind of technology thinking around that. And then the idea was to follow the concept of algorithms in order to create a sequence in the way you eat it. Once I was thinking on creating a sequence, I was thinking which reason could have this sequence, and then one reason when you have a linear algorithm is that you go from one step to the other. So it was this traveling in one direction. So you go from south of Taiwan to the north, and in every region you eat a dish of typical. And then I was thinking it would be nice to concentrate in one thing, so then you have a kind of meta-territorial pie, which you eat, and then you can go through the whole Taiwan at one time. Of course, I insist I am a designer who design edible objects, so the project of design is in general important, but specifically with food, it's more complex because it's something that you eat and affects your health, but also in the production affects the environment. So let's say that the project of design of food, it's much more, it has to be much more holistic if you do a good project, you need a very 360 grade vision. And also it's true that it's a huge responsibility. Our lifestyle is changing continuously, so we cannot affront to eat food which is thought or it's done like 200 or 50 years ago. Food has to be adapted, not only ergonomically, but also in terms of nutritional facts and also in ingredients to our life. That's obvious.